Here's a weird thing that happened in 2018. Under the Silver Lake premiered at Cannes Film Festival, then got delayed for months, repositioned, got quietly dumped into a handful of theaters by A24, and then disappeared into streaming so that no one would find it. No campaign, no moment, just silence. But then, slowly, people started tracking it down because they'd heard it was confusing, which is strange because that description normally buries a film. But the confusion around this one worked differently. People didn't argue about what it meant. Instead, they were unsure of what they had watched in the first place. Like sitting through something that refuses to follow the rules movies are supposed to follow. Under the Silver Lake isn't a mystery we're supposed to solve. It's a mechanism we're supposed to notice. And what it's showing us is this. Identity isn't something we discover. It's something we assemble from pieces that are already there. That mechanism, that's Under the Silver Lake. Sam is a broke 30-something floating through Los Angeles with no job, no plan, and an eviction notice he's ignoring. He spends his day watching old movies and spying on his neighbors with binoculars. He wears a Nintendo shirt, he watches Hitchcock on a loop, he knows obscure film references and pop cultural deep cuts. And that's about it. There's nothing else underneath. That's the whole person. No ambition, no relationships, no interior life that doesn't trace back to something he watched, or read, or absorbed. Sam isn't a character with a personality. He's a default human, a composite of cultural inputs with no original output. He meets Sarah, one evening together, and it feels like the beginning of something. However, the next morning, she's gone. The apartment is empty. Furniture, clothes, everything is gone. No note explaining. To Sam, Sarah isn't a person, but rather a template. She's the idealized image he's been trained to chase by every movie, billboard, and song about the girl who got away. But instead of breaking him, her disappearance exposes him. Sam has no idea who he is without a template to pursue. So he goes looking for her. And that search pulls him into an entirely different version of Los Angeles. A city underneath the one everyone else sees. Packed with symbols, codes, homeless prophets, hidden messages in pop songs, celebrity death myths, and connections between things that shouldn't have anything to do with each other. He's decoding cereal boxes, following women who look like her, breaking into houses, drawing maps on his walls. Director David Robert Mitchell, who previously crafted the zeitgeist horror of It Follows, takes this search through locations like the Griffith Observatory, Silver Lake Reservoir, and creating what feels like David Lynch's version of LA conspiracy noir. On the surface, we know this story. Lonely man, vanishing women, obsessive search. Think Chinatown or The Long Goodbye. The emotional hooks are effective. Loneliness, money anxiety, voyeurism, romantic projection, the dread of being invisible in a city that makes people visible for a living. But here's what the film actually does with that structure. Every time Sam seems to close in on an answer, the film doesn't narrow, it opens wider. He meets a conspiracy publisher who teaches him to read the city like a text. Symbols embedded into the architecture that most people walk past without registering. A homeless king running a parallel social hierarchy that operates invisibly alongside the official one. A songwriter who claims he wrote the emotional playbook for entire generations. Billboards cycling the same woman's face across the city. Elites who've opted out of reality entirely, living underground. None of it gets him closer to Sarah. At some point, the question shifts. It stops being, where did she go, and becomes, what kind of system produces templates like her, and consumers like him? The missing woman stops being the point. The film redirects us. We stop looking for her, and instead start looking at who built this confusing world both of them are living in. So normal noir films contract as they move. Clues accumulate, contradictions resolve, the truth crystallizes. The frame gets tighter. This film does the opposite. It spreads. Cultural artifacts pile on top of each other. Cereal boxes, old movies, pop records. Celebrity mythology, graffiti, murals, billboards, album art, all treated with equal weight, all presented as potentially meaningful. High culture and trash culture collapse into one undifferentiated field. Nothing clicks. The noise just keeps getting louder. And here's where it gets inside our heads. We start to spot things. The owl keeps showing up, then a triangle, a spiral, a recurring color. Suddenly everything looks connected. The cereal box links to the old movie links to the billboard links back to the mural. And we cannot tell whether the film planted these connections or whether we're doing the same thing Sam is doing. Seeing patterns that the human brain has built, whether they exist or not. This isn't a trick, it's a proof of concept. The film doesn't just depict pattern seeking, it builds it in us. We're hunting for meaning, connecting dots, trying to figure out if the owl matters, trying to remember if a certain image appeared earlier in the film. We're wondering if we missed something important 3 scenes back. The film withholds resolution and gives us more symbols instead, more layers, more texture, with no bottom. It generates the same thing in us that it generates in Sam, a tension that won't let go. Either we engage the pattern seeking, or we reject the whole film outright. And both reactions prove the point. Whether we're playing along or refusing to play, we're responding to the environment the film has built around us. Every frustration, every moment of wondering whether we're overthinking it, every connection we start to see. That's the thesis running in us in real time. The film isn't separate from its argument, it is the argument. There's one scene that changes everything. Sam tracks down an old songwriter, an ordinary man in a modest house living in total obscurity. The guy claims he's composed every major pop hit of the last 50 years. The hooks, the melodies, the chord progressions. The emotional blueprints that an entire generation absorbed as the soundtrack to being alive. That song you tied to your first heartbreak? He wrote it. The one that made you feel dangerous at 15? Him as well. The one that taught you what love is supposed to feel like? Yep, he composed that too. Except he sold it to someone who got famous performing feelings they didn't create. Rebellion, romance, heartbreak, longing, desire. All of it written by a man no one's heard of, working professionally inside industries designed to shape how people feel, then distributed through artists who become the face of emotions they didn't author. The film is careful here. He's not a villain, he's a professional. He made products that worked. They gave people the vocabulary for things they felt but couldn't articulate. And because they worked, they shaped the emotional language of millions of people who never thought to ask where those feelings came from in the first place. Now, this scene appears in every video essay about this film. Here's why it matters more now. This songwriter isn't fiction anymore. He's an industry model. Max Martin has 28 Billboard Hot 100 #1 singles, more than almost anyone alive, and most people couldn't pick him out of a lineup. The emotional soundtrack of 2 full generations traces back to a handful of invisible professionals working out of places like Cheiron Studios. And the model has already evolved past them. AI-generated music is flooding platforms, engineered by systems that identify exactly which progressions trigger nostalgia and which intervals manufacture longing. The songwriter in the film was a man at a piano. Now the piano plays itself. The question the film poses echoes what theorist Jean Baudrillard explored. If culture teaches you what to want, where do your wants actually start? If the soundtrack to your adolescence was manufactured to produce specific emotional responses, how much of your inner life belongs to you? Did the song capture what you were feeling, or install the feeling in the first place? That's the map this movie is drawing. Not conspiracy, mechanism. Los Angeles as the factory that exports identity templates globally. Pop music coding emotional language. Celebrity mythology modeling who to become. Advertising sculpting desire. Subcultures as the off-the-rack identities. Each one packaged with its own values, aesthetics, and social scripts. When the film finally came out, the industry labeled it puzzling, incoherent, a quirky cult thing. Critics wrote about style and ignored structure. The conversation called it eccentric homage, surreal pastiche, a weird little puzzle. Every one of those labels does the same thing, makes it manageable. If it's eccentric, you don't have to engage with what it's arguing. If it's incoherent, you don't have to address how it's built. If it's a puzzle, you can solve it and move on, which is the exact behavior the film is critiquing. Categorization is containment. Genre is a template. Critical reception is gatekeeping. All of it sorts cultural products into recognizable boxes so audiences know what to expect, know how to consume, and know where to file it. Calling it a puzzle is self-protection, because if the film is actually mapping how identity gets built, solving it doesn't help. The machinery doesn't stop simply because we understand how it works. The film has a scene where Sam encounters what's essentially a cult, organized around a single symbol, the owl's kiss. People who've built an entire identity around performing allegiance to one image. Their belonging, their hierarchy, their aesthetic, their rituals, all organized around a symbol someone else created. Now open TikTok. Clean girl aesthetic, dark academia, cottagecore. Each one is a complete identity kit. Wardrobe, values, morning routine, approved media, aspirational mood board, and each one appears as if it's something you discovered by yourself when it was actually manufactured, distributed, and optimized for engagement before you ever encountered it. The Owl's Kiss cult looks absorbed until you realize it's the same mechanism running underneath every aesthetic niche on our feed. Identity starts to feel less like something you become and more like something you select from a menu. You're not building yourself from raw material. You're browsing options that were designed, tested, and distributed before you showed up. Someone built that aesthetic. Someone wrote that script before you got there. And it feels like discovery, like finally finding where you belong, because that's how effective the design is. The environment always comes first. The templates, the symbols, the frameworks, they were all in place before you encountered them. You were born into a city that was already designed. You grew up inside media that already existed. You assembled yourself from materials that were already available. That's not a tragic failure. That's just how culture operates. What's changed is the speed, the saturation, and the seamlessness. The environment is so dense with symbols and references and templates that it's become invisible. You don't notice you're inside it because there's nobody actually outside of it to compare against. Sam is a default human because he has no raw material. He's entirely composed of inputs. The film is asking whether that's his specific pathology or just a human condition with the volume turned up. The film itself doesn't resolve. Sam finds Sarah, but finding her doesn't fix anything. She's exactly where the system said she'd be, underground, serving hidden elites, playing a role in a structure that was already there. The template ends up serving the system that produced her. The consumer ends up back where he started. No villain gets taken down, no revelation dismantles anything. Sam doesn't escape, the machine doesn't stop. And the paradox it leaves you with, the system doesn't need secrecy. It needs participation. The songwriter wasn't hiding, he was working. The symbols aren't encrypted to keep you out. They're designed to pull you in. The billboard tells you what to want. The song tells you how to feel. The celebrity shows you who to be. And the search for hidden meaning is the participation mechanism itself. You search, so you're engaged. You decode, so you're paying attention. You obsess, so you're invested. Sam ends where he started. Broke, directionless, drifting through the same city, except now he can see the symbols. But nothing changes. Knowing how it works doesn't place you outside of it. It just changes what you notice. Sam searches because he feels hollow. Not sad, not angry, hollow. He's a default human looking for an original thought, and the film follows him through an entire city designed to make sure he never finds one. He obsesses because obsession feels like having a self. And the film lets him search, lets him decode, lets him obsess, then shows you that the search itself is the product. That feeling that meaning is hiding just beyond reach, that's not a glitch. That's by design. Think of it the last time you felt like something was missing. Not anything specific, just the sense that something real existed underneath everything else. That if you can find the right information, crack the right code, join the right group, adapt the right aesthetic, you'd finally touch something authentic. The real version of you underneath the assembled version. That feeling isn't a problem with the system, it's a feature of the system. The search for hidden meaning is what fills the space when something genuine is absent. Maybe the feeling of almost there is what keeps you looking, keeps you engaged, keeps you participating. Maybe the most honest thing a movie about cultural conditioning can do, not solve the puzzle, but show you why the puzzle exists. Not offer an exit, but trace the walls. The city keeps generating symbols. The symbols keep generating desires. The desires keep generating searches. The search never ends. Somewhere in Los Angeles, right now, someone wearing a band t-shirt they bought because an algorithm showed it to them is convinced the answer is buried somewhere in the pattern. If they could just decode one more symbol, follow one more thread, make one more connection, they'll find it any minute now. If this is your first time here, this is what we do. We take films apart, not to explain them, but to show you what they're exactly doing to you while you watch. If that sounds like something you want more of, please subscribe. If you've seen the film and you disagree with everything I just said, I want to hear it. Comments are open. And if you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. Then come back and tell me whether you solved the puzzle or the puzzle solved you. Until next time, please take care of yourself.